Today we are continuing the lecture of principles of oral surgery. In the previous part we have done the 4 principles which were developing a surgical diagnosis, basic necessities for surgery, aseptic techniques, incision planning. So in this lecture we will be dealing with the other principles of oral surgery. So starting with the flap design. So what you must know in the flap design? So first of all you must know the definition. One definition given by Bailey and Love, other given by the Carranza. So by Bailey and Love, a flap is a piece of tissue that is moved maintaining its blood supply and is not reliant site for its vascularity. And the easy one, which is by the Carranza, it is flap is a section of gingiva or mucosa surgically elevated from the underlying tissue to provide visibility and access to underlying bone and root surface. Then we come toward the principle of flap designs, right? So in principles of flap design, first principle we have outlined by surgical incision. So flap is outlined by a surgical incision. And what are all the types of incision? We have seen in the 4th principle of oral surgery in the previous part, right? So first principle is it is outlined by the surgical incision. It carries its own blood supply. Third is it allows surgical access to the underlying tissue. Fourth principle is it can be replaced in its original position. Right? Fifth principle, it can be maintained with sutures and it is expected to heal. So where we use this flap? So we use flap in surgery, periodontics and in endodontic procedures to gain the access. What are all the complications of flap design? So first complication is flap necrosis. Then we have flap dehiscence. Then we have flap tearing. And then we have injury to the vital structures, local structures. Right. So first is flap necrosis. So how you avoid the flap necrosis? So first rule is base is always of more width than the free marginal gingiva. Right. So free margin of the flap. So if you see this free margin of the flap, it should be less and the base of the flap should be more. This will provide an adequate blood supply for healing, right? Number 2 rule is width of the base, right? The width of the base should be more than the length of flap. Width of base should be more than the length of flap. So length of flap should be no more than twice the width of base. But it is less critical in oral cavity, and in general you must know that length should be less, width of the base should be more. Simple. Okay. Then we have the third thing, which is axial blood supply. So if you include any axial blood supply in your base of the flap, that should be included. It will provide you a good flap healing, right? Fourth is when you hold the flap with a retractor, it should rest on the intact bone to prevent the tension, right? There should be no tension or stretching in the flap during holding it. Second complication is flap dehiscence. So the incision should be made over an intact bone. So this will prevent a flap dehiscence. Then you have, if the pathological condition has eroded the buccocortical plate, the incision should be kept away at least 6 to 8 mm away, right? It should be at least 6 to 8 mm away from the your eroded buccocortical plate or the defect. So incision is always 6 to 8 mm away from the bony defect which you are going to create by the surgery. Gentle handle the flap edges. You have to gently handle the flap edges. Then you have, do not place the flap under tension and do not cross bony prominences like canine eminence. So basically when you will do all these things, you will see that there is no separation of the flap margins or no gapping of the wound, and flap dehiscence will be prevented, right? And if you will poorly handle the tissue, if you too tightly suture the tissue, if there is hematoma formation or there is infection, or you suture it under tight tension, then it will lead to separating the flap margins apart to each other. It will lead to dehiscence, right? So this is again in the dehiscence that you see in the picture A. the flap vertical release incision is kept 6 to 8 mm away from the tooth being treated, right? In picture B it is not kept, it is vertical release incision is just in close proximity to the tooth being treated, and this is wrong. So picture B is wrong and picture A is correct. So then you come to the third complication, which is flap tearing. So flap tearing is basically you prevent it by giving a clean sharp incision, right? Clean sharp incision penetrating the entire mucoperiosteum. You have to penetrate entire mucoperiosteum if flap is being reflected over the bone. So it should be reflected in a single unit. Flap should be reflected in a single unit. It should be large enough to prevent the tearing or for avoiding the need to be modified during surgery. Adequate size of flap is must for proper instrumentation and visual access, right? And if you see in picture A, the vertical releasing incision is extending one tooth anterior, right? Vertical releasing is extending one tooth anterior. But if you see in picture B, it is not first incision. In picture B, first vertical releasing incision is extending one tooth anterior, but the second one, right? But the second one is in wrong position. Second one should be going posteriorly, but it is going anteriorly, making it parallel to the first incision. That is wrong. So picture B is wrong. So started at the line angle of the teeth. So when you start a vertical releasing incision, it is always started from the line angle of tooth. Then you carry the oblique incision apically into the unattached gingiva, right? So you have to go beyond mucogingival junction onto the alveolar mucosa, and you carry it to alveolar mucosa, so there is adequate instrumentation, adequate visual access, and you never ever split the papilla, right? If you do this, then there will be localized periodontal problems, right? So you never ever split the papilla, interdental papilla. Fourth complication is injury to the local structures. So all the neurovascular bundles should be protected and there should be no damage to the neurovascular bundles. So for this you must know the anatomy, where all the nerves and vessels are present, and example in maxilla you prevent the GP neurovascular bundle damage and nasopalatine neurovascular bundle damage. So then summary of the principles of flap design. So incision, what you have to avoid. So you have to avoid incisions over the bony prominences, you have to avoid incision through papilla, you have to avoid incision over the facial aspect from mid crown portion, right? Facial aspect from mid crown, right? It should be on the angle of the root. So if you are giving any vertical incision, should be from the angle of the tooth. उसके बाद है incision not placed over sound bone. So never ever you have to place incision over a defected osseous bone. It should be over the sound bone only. Incision is placed over sound bone, right? This line is written wrong. Incision should be placed over the sound bone, and you have to avoid giving incision on the defected bone. Vertical incision in area of mantle foramen. Yeah, you have to avoid the vertical incision in area of mantle foramen. You have to avoid lingual incisions, lingual releasing incisions on the posterior mandible, and you have to avoid vertical incisions in the posterior palate, right? Otherwise there will be bleeding and injury to the GP artery and vessels. After that we comes on to the types of mucoperiosteal flap. So when you see the types of flaps, we have envelope flap, envelope with the one releasing incision. It is also known as three corner flap or triangular flap. Envelope with two releasing incision, it is also known as four corner flap, in which we have two flaps, rectangular flap and trapezoidal flap. Then we have semilunar flap, Y incision, pedicle flap. So going in detail one by one. So first is envelope or a circular flap, right? So it is most common type of flap, and the incision is made to width 2 teeth anterior, 1 teeth posterior, 2 teeth anterior and 1 teeth posterior to the tooth being treated. After that it is given intracircularly. It is given intracircularly around the neck of the teeth along the premarginal gingiva on the buccal or the lingual aspects, including the interdental papilla. So you have to include the interdental papilla, right? Then in edentulous ridges, you have to give over the crest of ridge. In an edentulous, you give over the crest of ridge. Example, when you remove the mandibular tori, you just give incision over the crest of ridge, right? And your entire mucoperiosteal flap is raised by your periosteal elevator. You have to gain access till apical 1/3 of the teeth, right? So you have to reflect it till apical 1/3 of the tooth. So this is mainly used for surgical extraction of tooth or roots. Coming to second flap, which is three corner flap or a triangular flap. So in this you will see a vertical release incision, right? So can you see the anterior vertical releasing incision and half envelope flap? So it behaves as a combination of an envelope flap and a single vertical release incision, right? So your vertical releasing incision is going divergent toward the buccal vestibule. That means it is making obtuse angle between there is obtuse angle between the vertical incision and free gingival margin. The vertical release incision should never go through the interproximal area, never split the papilla. If it is splitting the papilla, it will cause periodontal defect in that area, post-operative periodontal defect. Okay, so this flap is used to get greater access when compared to the envelope flap, and especially in the posterior aspects of the mouth. Coming to the third flap, which is the four cornered flap, also known as now we have two types, rectangular and trapezoidal flap, right? So in this we have one tooth anterior and one tooth posterior. So this is length of flap. So length of flap is one tooth anterior to the tooth being treated and one tooth posterior to the tooth being treated, and two vertical release incisions are there. And in this picture you can see these both vertical release incision are in non-parallel to each other, and they are divergent. They are divergent from the flap margin to the base of flap. Either they can be parallel or either they can be divergent. If either they are parallel, then this is a type of rectangular flap. If they are like diverging from the free margin to the base, then it is a type of a trapezoidal flap, making a trapezium. So why we do not use a rectangular flap? Rectangular flap has disadvantages. Rectangular flap, when we reapproximate the flap margin back, we reapproximate, it causes difficulty, and wound closure also causes difficulty, and there is greater potential for post-operative flap dislodgement. So that's why we always use the trapezoidal flap, and you can see this is making a trapezium. And why we use this flap? Because it provides the best and the better blood supply for the flapped tissues, and it provides the greater access and visibility. The blood vessels and the collagen in the mucoperiosteal flaps are oriented in vertical direction, so when you give an angled vertical incision, it may damage the vascular supply, and it will cause more bleeding and shrink the flap tissue post-operatively. Now coming to the fourth type of flap, which is our semilunar flap, right? So when you do the fourth type of flap, which is your semilunar flap, you see that it approaches to approach the root apex. So we do this using for the periapical surgeries, where you have to carry out the periapical surgery, where you have to expose the periapical area, like in apicectomy. Then you go for the semilunar flap, right? This again, the base of the flap should be broader than the apex of the flap, and your incision line should not lie on the bony defect, and your incision is always 5 mm away, at least 5 mm away from the free gingival margin. This flap is useful to avoid damage to interdental papilla, right? So your papilla is protected by using this flap, and you do not have to put this flap crossing major prominences like canine eminence, right? And the only disadvantage of this flap is basically it often lies on the bony defects. That's why we do not use, we prefer going to the four corner flap than this semilunar flap. Coming to the fifth flap, which is your Y incision. So you can see here is the torus palatinus, and for removal of this torus you go for a Y incision. It will protect your neurovascular bundle coming out from the incisive foramen, and also it will protect your GP vessels, Okay, then lastly you have a pedicle flap. Pedicle flap is basically you mobilize the flap from one area and then you rotate it and to fill the defect of the another area, right? The only disadvantage is you will get the row area, so you can see this row palate which will heal by secondary intention, and we generally use it for closure of oroentral communication. Then you have a sixth principle. This was the fifth principle and the important principle of flap design. By exam point of view, the fifth principle is only the important principle, the flap designs, principles of flap designs. Coming to other principles, the sixth, which is tissue handling. So you have to handle the tissue gently, no excessive pulling, no crushing, proper retraction without injudicious force, right? And okay, so apart from careful flap designs and incisions technique, careful handling of the tissue necessary for optimal and uncomplicated healing, excessive crushing, pulling, extreme of temperature during your bone cutting, right, by your handpiece and burr, it should not occur. So what you have to do, you have to go for a saline irrigation. It will prevent your bony necrosis, right? Desiccation and harsh chemical damages the tissue and these should be avoided. Tooth, forceps and skin hooks also damages the crushes the wound edges. Then avoid excessive pulling forces while retraction. Use copious irrigation while drilling or cutting the bone and protect the soft tissue while drilling or cutting. So I think video is getting too long, that's why from 7th onwards, hemostasis onwards, I will put it in a part 3 lecture of this video. I hope this will be beneficial to you. Thank you all.